Hello and welcome to this beginner's guide to Hearts of Iron 4. So Hearts of Iron is the fourth installment in Paradox's grand strategy game series in Second World War, while there are other games like EU4 and Crusader Kings deal with earlier times, and Stellaris is the future one. So this one is in the World War II, and it's a bit difficult game to get into, and I thought it would be a nice idea to make a small beginner's guide. Just all the basics of the game and how to get started, so you can jump into the game and start playing it. The previous Hearts of Iron games are notoriously really difficult to get into, and there's lots of small details and big details and things that you need to learn about the game, and it might be a bit overwhelming. So is for Hearts of Iron 4 as well, but Hearts of Iron 4 is definitely much more approachable than the previous ones are. And hopefully with this beginner's guide, it will be easier for everyone to jump into it. So anyways, let's get going. So in the main menu here, we have the single player and multiplayer option stuff. All of these. So let's start with the single player here, and we'll do a new game. There is also a tutorial included in the game where you play as Italy, and it tells you basically the basics as well. But I thought it would be better to have like a bit more in-depth beginner's guide, because I thought the tutorial didn't really explain all the things as much as necessary. But I still recommend playing through the tutorial as well. So let's start a new game, and immediately you're thrown into this select scenario window, and you have two options where to start from: 36 and 39. And 36 is basically before the wars, and you have time to prepare and do your things before everything goes to hell. And then 39 is throwing you directly at the start of the war and into the action immediately. Personally, I prefer 36 more, as it allows me to kind of learn the stuff and do my things before everything happens. So we'll go with that one. And also the world map depends on which scenario you take. If you do the 39, for example, Germany has already taken some parts of Europe instead of not taking them in 36. So if you want to do those. And then we got this select nation screen here. So here's the great nations, or the major nations that were in the Second World War, the major players: France, United States, UK, German Reich, Italy, Japan, Soviet Union. And what separates these is they have their unique national focus trees. We'll come to those later, but they have a unique one compared to the generic ones of the other countries. The only other country that does have their specific national tree at launch of the game is Poland. So you can play as any other country as well by selecting the other countries, and I found playing them to be really fun. For example, so here this is the other countries, and you can just select whichever you want. For example, Poland here. But we'll go back to the main menu here, and we'll select one of the big nations, I think. All of the nations have their national spirits as well. All the major players and some of the smaller nations as well. For example, France here has the victors of the Great War and disjointed government and protected by Maginot Line. And same for all of these. Yeah, actually, I'm gonna go with the Poland, because Poland is pretty cool. And when you select a nation, you come to this world map here. Or if you just select one of the big nations, you will also get here. There's also a list of the interesting nations. I guess these are the interesting nations, and there's gonna be more later on. And you see your nation's information up here: leader, ideology, government type, next elections when they are. For example, well, most of these more extreme do not have elections, but like USA, they have elections. And if you want to change your government type, elections are a really good way to do that, or queuing. Well, we'll get back to that as well. And then the ruling party, and some historical information like the leaders and your political spread. Like there's a bit of a Democrats, a bit of a fascists, and a bit of a communists, and a bit of a non-aligned in here. Or in case of like Finland, there's a lot of non-aligned and different ones in different nations here. So here we go, Poland. And there's difficulty options, and you can mouse over to see which option you want to take and what difference they do. So for example, Recruit, which is the easiest, gives you a bit of extra protection, extra research, and extra political power. Then there's the regular, and then the opposite on the veteran. So it's not, it's a small change between the difficulties, but it's not a major change. Well, between these, it's like 50% of political power, which can be quite a lot, but it's not that big. The production efficiency cap is also quite big, but I recommend if you are first trying the game, I would go with Recruit and then pump it up to regular after that, after you're comfortable with the game. Then we have the Iron Man mode, which allows you to play the game as Iron Man mode, and it gives you achievements, and only when you have Iron Man mode. So if you care about achievements, you might want to play an Iron Man mode, but it also prevents you from saving yourself, and it just auto saves for you, and you cannot use the console cheats as it says here. Sometimes you might have to use the console cheats to fix some issues, but I haven't really run into any issues yet. But for example, good thing to keep in mind is that if you want to play with some bit special nation, say Iceland, which starts out as a part of Denmark, but there is a Icelandic course there. You could probably form an Iceland through console commands, so keep that in mind. But anyways, that's for you to choose really. And then you have historical AI focuses. So again, we come to the national focuses, which I'll show you very soon. And if you keep the historical AI focuses, they do them in a historical order. For example, when the German Reich takes Poland and all of that. But if you uncheck this, they will just select them, well, whenever. And that will very likely screw the flow of history very badly, and where things happen, like when Sweden takes over the Soviet Union and stuff like that, like in my previous games. So yeah, I prefer starting from the historical period, like where the 36 or 39 sets the history, and then I don't want the historical AI focus, because I like the what if scenario, where the game just goes in a very strange historical lanes. But if you want to play it as a historical strategy game, then the option is yours here. Let's get into the actual game now. And here we initialize the game. And first I'm gonna explain some of the interface, because the interface can be a bit overwhelming at first. There's lots of buttons and lots of windows to look through and what they do, and all these numbers and icons all over the place. So let's start from the top. Here's your nation. Did we choose Denmark? Apparently I chose Denmark. I thought we were Poland, but that's fine. That's this is just for the demonstration purposes anyways. So up here is your national unity, which is basically how willing your people are to do things, especially in war. And if your national unity is low, your nation will fall immediately when someone attacks you, especially if they take some, like your capital, like Copenhagen here. And national unity helps a lot on that. Also, it helps against coups, so if your national unity is really bad and someone is working diplomatically to overthrow your government, for example, I think Denmark starts as democratic, someone might be working to make you into communist by supporting your communist parties, and then throws a communist coup in your country when your unity is low, and then you are in a deep problems. But sometimes you might want to do that yourself. And next in here we have the political power. So political power is basically this resource you use to change your own government, and also for diplomatic things that you can do against and with for the other nations. You can improve relations, and you can do the coups and support the different parties and stuff like that. You can also justify war goals against them, so you can actually declare war on them. And you can spend it in this window here. So this is your political window here, and you can spend it on a national focus ideas, which will come to very, very soon. And you can also recruit military and scientific advisors, changing trade and conscription laws in here, and do some of those diplomatic actions, I guess, as I said. So there's lots of things you can do in there, and we'll look at that in a second a bit more. Then we have the manpower, so how much basically recruitable population you have, and a population who will fill the ranks when your soldiers fall in war. And we start with very low, and you might want to increase your manpower through some conscription laws. Like here we only have option that's volunteer only, so 1.5% of the population is serving, but we can go very, very high on that number as well. And if you are doing lots of wars, you need this number. Like we are actually getting probably some complaints that we don't have those. So definitely important number to keep eye on, especially if you are doing a big war. If you just don't have population to support your front lines and not to make more units and all that, you're gonna lose the war. Then you have the factories, so you can mouse over here, you see you have a couple of military factories, some naval dockyards, and some civilian factories. Military factories make military gear, and civilian factories are used for trade goods, to make more factories and stuff like that. And next we have here army experience, the navy experience, air experience, and convoys. So these experiences are used, for example, to change your unit compositions. So here, when you recruit and deploy units, you can edit your divisions, and you can add and remove and do all kinds of things. So for example, if I added say artillery here, it costs me 5 army experience. And there's different things that give that. National focuses, for example, are really good for that, to do that. And convoys are for shipping goods overseas and shipping people overseas as well. So convoys are very important resource as well. You need to defend them with your navies, especially if you are against a big naval power, say like UK or US or Japan. As if you lack resources, for example, the Denmark or anything up here really is missing oil and rubber, because well, oil and rubber doesn't really happen in Europe, and you need to ship it from somewhere, and these are very important in that case. Let's see. What do we have next? Up here is in the corner is the speed buttons and pause. So the game is real time. I'm currently using the pause, so spacebar also works. You can pause the game and unpause the game, and plus and minus, you can speed up and slow down the game. And it's highly recommended that you start with pause and do your things, and then start at slow speed, see how things go. And if you feel overwhelmed, just slow it down or pause the game again, instead of going on high speeds and just letting it all go and wonder what happened. And when you're more comfortable, then you can speed up the time again. And all of that can be done here, or just a spacebar, plus minus. As you can see, the green dots there increase and go down as I do things. Up here, you have your list of army. So here you can see what kind of divisions we have. We have 4 infantry and 1 cavalry at the moment, it seems. These Gardehussar, Danish names. Then you have navy. So we have one naval unit in here, and air forces. So we have a couple of fighters, and you can see all of this information up here. So for example, those units are represented same here, so that's the horse. And these are the 4 other, and there's the navy on the actual map as well. And here you have the world tension. So this is a well, scaling from 1 to 100% tension. 100% pretty much is the world war happening, and 0 is everything is okay. And when things happen in the world, someone declares war, someone justifies war goals and does things. It increases the tension, and increased tension helps you to actually do more wars, because you need you cannot just declare directly a war on someone. You need to have a justification on that, and the higher the tension here, the easier it is to justify wars. So it's like, yeah, we want to attack this now. When it's Second World War, and it's like, yep, it's fine. But if you are in a peaceful state of the world, then you need a much longer time to justify your actions against others. And it's a really cool mechanic, because it guarantees that there's this slow start where you kind of build up, and then when the tension gets high, everything just starts happening all around the world, and things just go very, very bad. So you can also see the current wars in here, in this window. So there's Italian war in Ethiopia, 36, is happening immediately down here. And the other buttons here, there's help, which is actually really helpful. It takes you to the actual wiki page of the Hearts of Iron 4, and you can look through things here. So if you're wondering like about land units, this is where you can get some more information about them, and it's really handy. In build wiki, you can also go to the Paradox forums, and this is a real browser, so you can go pretty much anywhere inside the game. And then you have dismissed alerts. So if you dismiss, like say, this insufficient resources, you can get it back from here, and right-clicking dismisses these. And we'll get to those in a second. So down here, you have search. Also, hotkey for this is F. And if you are wondering where is this strange country or place or whatever, so for example here I could just type France, and it finds me France or San Francisco, and you can just click on it and it takes you there. So this is an easy way to navigate if you're wondering, especially if you have some problems with geography, especially in regions where you don't normally hang out. I use this a lot, especially with some of those really strange place names, like, where is this in the world? And then we come to map modes. So this is the world map that you will be, well, staring most of the time, doing things. And it has different map modes. This is the default map mode, shows the nations, shows the countries, shows the units, and all of these cities and everything. Then we have the strategic navy map, which shows the naval regions of the world. And when you are setting your navy units or on missions, these areas are what you use. So you basically, for example, our navy here, we gotta give it a mission to go, say, to the northeastern sea here. And if we would do that, and we can give them some orders that they do within this region. Also, on this map, you can see the different kind of choke points in the seas. So the Danish Wells here, for example. If you control this sea with your navy, you can make enemy armies not able to pass, navies cannot pass, submarines cannot pass, and trade cannot pass. So you can blockade by controlling these points, like the Suez Canal. Here is a very, very key point to control, because if you control this point, it's kind of difficult to deliver anything from here to Europe, because you have to go all the way around Africa, and it definitely helps with that. Also, if you're a Mediterranean power and you control both this and that point, you can lock down the whole Mediterranean from opposing forces, which can be really, really powerful. You also see the different naval bases in there, where you can deploy your units, or where your opponents will deploy their units. So this is the naval map. Really helpful, especially if you're playing as one of the great naval powers. If you're playing inland, then you don't usually watch this too much. And then we have the strategic air map. So same thing, almost the same areas as well. Well, pretty much the same areas, but just for the air forces. So same way you send your planes on missions in different areas, and you can see where the airports or air bases are located. Like Denmark seems to have 2 in here, so you can click on these, and then you have your planes here, and you can send them, for example, to the Northeastern Sea. Just click on this and right click here, and there we have it. We'll take a look at more at the air force in a second. And then there's these smaller buttons on the side here. There's the supply areas map, so you can see where armies are getting supplied, as you need to supply your armies. And when you zoom in, you start to see all these areas here. So there's the infrastructure and the naval base and supported amount, for example here. And this can be really important when you are doing big wars, especially if you are doing them abroad and you need to supply your units. If your armies are not supplied, they will get crushed really quickly. So this is also really handy information for this. And next we have the states. And I'm not exactly sure what this does, but it shows the different states here. I've never really used this map myself. Haven't really found it that important to use, to be honest. So we'll just pass over it for now. Then we have the resistance map, which at the moment doesn't really show anything, because it shows a resistance in occupied areas. So if you take over a country and they have a really nationalist, proud people, they might not want you in there. And then shows you the trouble spots, as it says here, that you should carry them more or change your occupation policy. So that's handy when if you have some trouble with the resistance. And then the very important thing, which is the reason also why wars are done, the resources. So this is what everyone wants: resources. And there are 6 resources in the game. I'll show you here. So we have oil, aluminium, rubber, tungsten, steel, and chromium. And this is what your industry needs to make things like guns, weapons, cars, planes, everything is these. And different areas have these different amounts. Like there's some oil in there, the steel production of Europe, and steel production of here as well. In Sweden, there's some chromium, steel, and tungsten, and all these oil and rubber and things in here. So this is very important when you do wars. These are the key points you want, so you can help your war effort. These resources. And as you can see, they are kind of spread around, like they are in real life as well. So you cannot really hold everything at the same time, unless you are a colonial power, and you have, say you are France, and you have aluminium and steel in oodles in your homeland, and then you have massive African areas for like rubber and things. So then you might be doing well. But you also need to protect your overseas holdings, because they are important. Then we have the diplomacy map mode, which shows different diplomatical thingies. So currently selected countries. So I can click, for example, the Soviet Union here, and it should show me the relations. I think it mightn't show them yet. Not sure why. And we have this country selected though. Oh well, but yeah, it shows you who likes you and who hates you. It might be because stuff hasn't really started to kick around. Everyone is pretty, neutral at the moment towards each other. And then you have factions. So gray is the non-aligned, black Axis, the red allies, and then the massive Comintern, the Soviet Union. So these are the factions in the game, and it's very important to keep an eye on these as well. If you are planning to attack someone, make sure you are ready to take their friends as well, if they are, so, for example, in the Comintern or allies. And you can also form your own factions, not just these. So you could have some extra factions going around, especially if the history goes a bit wonky, which it usually will. But yeah, that's something to keep an eye on as well. Then you have the day-night cycle, so I'm gonna enable that, and let's speed up the time a bit and I'll show you what it does. So it is literally the day-night cycle. You have this nighttime, daytime transition moving around here. If you do want to do night attacks and stuff like that, this is what you want to use. But it gets a bit annoying if I boost it all the way up here. Just watching this pass gets really disorienting very quickly. And I like to play myself not having that on. Then you have the countries and allegiance options here. So it shows the units with the country color, like this. I'm this kind of grayish, brownish. And if I did see some other units, they would be like the Germans would be more this black color, and whatever the color happens to be, Swedes would be blue. If you keep this on, but if you keep it on the allegiance, the green ones are friendly ones, and red ones are the enemy ones. I like it this way, so that I can quickly see who's friendly and who's not friendly. And then the last button down here is the Allied Battle Plans. So if you keep this on, you can see what your friends are planning, like what kind of tactical maneuvers their armies are gonna do. It can be helpful, especially if you're in a war, doing something together, and you know that, okay, my friend is going this way, I might want to support him this way, or I might want to circle from the side, or whatever you are planning to do. So seeing their movement is super helpful. Alright. And down here is the army management button, which we'll deal with in a second. And then the notification slots. So all the notifications come here on this bar, and we'll work on dealing with these in a second. So whenever something is going on, you wanna check out what's the problem. Like at the moment we are missing research, we have some civilian factories that could be doing something, same with the navies. We don't have national focus at the moment, we have no armies in training, we are missing some equipment production, and we are missing some resources at the moment. We'll get there in a moment. So let's start going through these buttons next and get to the real meat of the game. So this is the government window here, or the political window. This is our glorious leader Thorvald Stoning, our current party composition. So very, very democratic, blue at the moment. We're democratic, and the next elections are coming. And it's the Social Democratiate. And you can see what different governments do when you mouse over them. So for example, the Social or the Democrats have a generate war goal tension limit 100%. So they need to be in the world war to be able to declare justifications and declare wars on each other. If you look for example at Finland, that is currently unaligned. They have a war goal limit of 50%, so the world needs to be at 50% in war for them to declare wars. And there's also the tension limits for different things. And if you are one of the fascists or communists, you don't have a limit for justifications. And you can also send volunteer forces, and you can hold territory owned by a country you are not at war with. And puppet cost also is lower for the Soviets or the Comintern. And also justify war goals. Time when at war with a major is 80%. So if you want to declare quick wars, you want to turn either a communist or a fascist pretty much, because of the limit on the war, or the justification for the wars. And down here you have the laws and government. So this is your conscription law here, and this affects how much manpower you have at hand. So currently we are a volunteer only, which is the lowest amount, and it's only 1.5% recruitable population. But as you recruit more and more people, you lose effectiveness of like factories. So for example, if you go for extensive conscription, but we need to be a fascist or communist for this, and we need to be at war as well. And this one gives you a lot more. It goes from 1.5 to 5% recruitable population, which is a huge difference already. But it also increases your army training time. And as you go down more and more, this one starts dropping your factory output and construction speed, and same. Just goes harder and harder to actually keep your factories running and things constructing, but you have a lot of manpower to throw at the enemy. Something to consider as you are doing wars and recruiting more troops. And Denmark starts with very low, and you might wanna increase the to limited conscription. Next thing you have is the trade laws. So there's export focus, which gives you resources to the market, factory output, construction speed, and research time. Then there's the free trade. Not as much, a bit more resources to the market, and helps your output even more. But also doesn't leave you as much resources if someone is buying all your resources. And then limited export makes your factory outputs a bit slower, but keeps more for yourself. And then totally closed economy, nothing will be exported. And it might be interesting if you could hold a certain resource, like in the Middle East or something, you hold lots of the oil and don't trade it to anyone. Are some nations gonna be screwed by that fact? Especially in multiplayer, when there's multiple people controlling different nations. This might be interesting to play with. And next, we have the civilian economy. So how is your civilian economy doing? So you're making lots of consumer goods, and construction speeds are pretty low, and you can increase it towards the total mobilization and war economy, which gives you more military factory construction speed and civilian to military factory conversion speed as well, so you can convert the factories to better ones. Well, whatever you need at that moment. Then we have political advisors, 3 of them, 3 slots for them, and you have different options. For example, you have one for each main government types, so the Democrats, Communists, and Fascists. And you have one of these for each, like this guy helps daily democratic support, then you have daily fascism support, daily communism support. And if you want to change your government type, it's a really good idea to hire one of these guys to start pushing one of the ideologies to your nation very early on. And then we have a political power gain. There's a couple of the different ones, like there's the Smooth Talker, who gives you more trade. This Backstabber gives you political power gain and agile drift defense. So if someone else is trying to push their agenda on you, you can defend against it with this guy. There is also a guy who helps a lot more in the political power, and then like people like this who will help with the construction of civilian factories. So each nation has their own selection of different political advisors you can use, and they help with different things. The main thing definitely is these ideology guys when you are working on changing your government type. And all of these require the political power that you gain. Next you have research and production, and there's usually stuff like this, just the armor designer guy, which makes a research time for those specific technologies faster, and armors are more reliable. Same with the Navy, research time, same with the Air Forces, so research time and also helps that specific type of aircraft, like the fighters on this one, and then I have heavy fighters and bombers, and then strategic bombers and naval, so carriers and stuff like that. So there is different focuses you can do with this and make it faster to research and make them more effective. And then we come to the material designer, which is the same as pretty much as the tank designer, but it focuses like artillery, infantry, motorized, makes it faster. So if you want, for example, heavy focus on infantry early on, or heavy focus on tanks, you want to go to motorized tank designer. It depends on the country and your war plan, pretty much, really. And then industry concerns, so you can drop electronics research time or industry research time here. And then we have military theorists who will help with armies. So for example, this guy generates you army experience daily and makes army doctrines easier to research. And the naval theorist for the same thing. And these guys are really handy. I usually like the kind of army experience guy. And then lastly, we have the military staff here. So chief of army helps your army. For example, these guys help in offense and defense. Same for the navy, same for the air forces. So all kinds of helpful dudes to help your focus on those. And then we have the military high command, lastly. And they are also like artillery focus, logistic focus, air combat training, and fleet logistics. So these guys help you to focus on specific goals you want to do with your army. And that's the political window. One very important thing in the political window is the national focus tree. And this is the thing I was saying in the start of the video that I'll show you shortly. But here it is finally now. So this is the Danish focus tree, or the Denmark focus tree, which actually is the generic focus tree because Denmark doesn't have their own. Only the interesting nations or the major players have their own specific focus tree, plus Poland at the launch. But I would imagine later on, as we get more content for the game, these are gonna change, and more specific trees will be added. But here you can focus things on different things, and you use political power for this. So it takes some daily political power. I think it's 1 per day. So we have 2.5 at the moment, so we would waste 1 on focusing on one of these. And there's army focus, aviation, naval, industry, and political for the default ones. And the other nations like Germany and those, they have more specific that give them justifications, like historical focuses they had on France, on Poland, on Czechoslovakia, Austria, on all of these. So that's where the national focuses come for those nations. And this is also really what you want to focus early on. If you're a small nation, for example, if you play as Finland, you might want to consider making friends with the Soviet Union, because you might get wiped out otherwise. So you want to focus on the political effort here, and then go down in here for the communist, get a guy who help you with communism and stuff like that. Or you can go fascism and align with the Axis, go neutral, go democratic. And all of these boost different things. Another really nice one early on to focus on is the industrial effort, which gives you different buildings, like 1+1 building slot, and adds a civilian factory. But same thing, but military factories. So if you want army or industry quickly, this is where you should focus early on. Also down here is the extra research slots, which are really helpful. But yeah, that's the national focus tree. So it's very key part of the game, and it's where you want to focus on what do you want to do, especially on the big nations. Let me actually show you quickly, like for example, what Germany has. So I just quickly switched to Germany here, and this is what the German focus tree looks like. It's totally different, and there's totally different things in here. Like I said, this is where their special things come in. So for example, they have here Rhineland, and Mosselland and Rhineland will no longer be a demilitarized zone, and then Anschluss, which allows you to just take over Austria and stuff like that. So these are really cool. Also, these as you can see, these are mutually exclusive, so you can break the history and go a bit differently. Instead of demanding Sudetenlands, you can actually befriend Czechoslovakia. You can join with China instead of Japan. So the alternative options for the historical events also happen here, like the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, which happened in real life. You can actually go anti-social pact with what do you do this with? Well, anyways, against the communists. War with USSR, alliance with USSR, puppet Turkey. So these really change how you play the countries. All the other big nations say, let's go USA in here. So USA also has totally different kind of focus tree, where they can focus on different war plans. And they can even embargo the empire, so they can go against UK and strike the empire, which is crazy, and also take over Canada. So these are the alternative historic focuses, which are really cool. Let's tag back to Denmark. As we start with Denmark. And let's go for the next windows. So next we have research in here. And in here you can focus research. You have research slots, and as you saw in the national focus tree, there was additional slots. So small countries start with like 2 or 3, bigger countries have more by default, and then you can add a few more. And in here you focus on different things that help your armies. For example, this is the infantry focus, so you can research new weapons, and then you have to make those weapons for your armies. You have support battalions, you have tanks, so if you want tanks, you want to go for heavy tanks or light tanks, this is where you do that research. Artillery, land doctrine, this is like what kind of battle plans you use. So for example, grand battle plan doctrine is for a lot of infantry defense type of kind of deal. Superior firepower, lots of artillery, mobile warfare for tanks, and quick blitzkrieg style of armor spearheads and stuff like that. So this is where you change your or research your different battle tactic styles. And these are you can only choose one of these, so you really have to take care to choose the proper one. For example, historically, this is where Germany went with tanks, and then for example Finland had the grand battle plan, so lots of defensive infantry, or just the Soviet just thrown bodies at the problem until the problem goes away, mass assault doctrine. So this is where those come in. Then we have naval research, so different boats. There's battleships, cruisers, destroyers, carriers for fleet support, submarines, and then transports. So if you want to go over the seas with your units, researching transports is very important. And then doctrine for the naval, how you want to work on those. Same with the planes, so you can research different planes, jet engines later on as you unlock those, and then doctrine for the planes. Then you have engineering and industry focus, and these are very important as well, especially if you start 36. You want to focus quickly on having a lot of research and a lot of engineering, so you can get some highly advanced technology on the field when the war starts. So for example here you can get something like research time boosts, radios and radars, so you can track movement of the enemies, and more research. There's the nuclear research as well, so nukes are in there, and then the rockets and jet engines also come in here. Industry, you can focus on making production efficiency, factory outputs, concentrated and dispersed versions. You can focus on construction time, resource efficiency, synthetic oil are what you can do here. And this really depends on what country you're playing and what kind of focus you want for your armies. But let's, for example, start researching support weapons, maybe the computers, and a bit of industry. So there's our research dealt with. Then we have diplomacy, which you can open from here, or if you want to just click on the country, you can also do it by just clicking through here, state-owned. And this is the diplomacy window, where you can see, well, the information about the nation, your opinion and their opinion on you, their national unity, which is really low for the Soviet Union at the start, because they're doing the Great Purge, how they are doing their diplomacy, so they're, for example, allied here with Mongolia and Tanutuva at the start. And then there's the options you can do diplomatically. You can declare wars, but you need firstly the justification for the war. So here's where the world tension justification government type thing comes in play. So you need to justify your war goal so that you can actually declare the war, and you justify the war goal on certain areas, but you can take more in the war or less in the war, depending how it goes. But you need to justify some kind of war goal to go against them. You can guarantee independence for some nations, especially small independent nations. If you are one of the big players, you can guarantee independence on them, and if someone attacks them, it pulls you into the war, so they will have to consider, is this worth risking the wrath of USA or something, if I want just this small nation? Then you can ask for a military access or offer it, so that they can get their troops through you, or you can go through them if you want to attack someone behind them. You can improve relations, so you can make the big Soviet Union happy and not kill you. Non-aggression pact, as it says, is what it does. So you guys don't declare war on each other, but they can of course break that. You can ask to join the faction. So for example, there's the Axis and there's the Comintern, there's the Allies. And if you're a democratic or whatever, those other options, you can join the faction. But you can also make the faction yourself. If you do it through the national focus here, go all the way down here, for example, technology. It's why we fight here, allows you to create factions, so you can make your own faction and rule from there. And you can start a land lease, so if you are friendlies with someone and they're in a war, you can send them gear for their war, or you can send volunteers, your own army troops, to help them out. Especially good if you do a coup in a nation and you want to help them survive that coup. Then you have expeditionary forces. So you need to be at the same faction and you send some expeditionary forces to help them out as well. A different option to the volunteers. Volunteers is basically when you are not in the same alliance, but you can help same ideologies. And then you have expeditionary forces, which help the same faction, basically. And then return the expeditions that they have sent to you. And you can this is where you do the coups and stuff. So you can start pushing democracy in here through the boost party popularity in Soviet Union, if you wanted, for example. But they might have some home of the revolution, so there's minus 50% on that, but it will slowly push a democracy idea in there, which is nice if you want to flip some other nation to some different political thought, especially if their unity is low, and then you get high support for, say, democracy, and then we come to the stage coup, and you can stage a coup in a nation, which might work really well. I managed to throw a coup in Soviet Union to make a fascist Russian empire, which actually ended up winning and took the whole Soviet Union and became the Russian Empire, which then lost to Sweden and became the Swedish Empire, but that's a bit different. But anyways, this is where you do the coups, and they are really fun to screw up some nations and create some really strange situations. So that's diplomacy. Really important part of the game as well. And then there's the trade, as I showed you the resources. And you can see that we have surplus of some of these, like 4 in there, and then we have a need of steel in here. We have trade goods from the civilian factories, and we, for example, have to get the steel. So you can click on the steel here, or you can click the steel in here, and then you see different parts of the world and different nations, and how much they have, and how much they are delivering, and their trade laws, the same ones you had in the diplomacy, on the government window, and influence, trade influence there. And you can click here, and then you can add just the number, how much you want. It's always buying 8 at the same time, and how many civilian factories do that. So trade goods, for example, here we could buy 32 at the moment. And you can see which nations you trade as well. And the same information here that you see in there. This button here trades you the amount you need, which is 4 at the moment, but it goes at 8 each. So you can, for example, trade that. And that will fix my insufficient resources as I unpause the game. There you go, now we have surplus as the US is delivering the steel for me. And when you are building things and you don't have the materials that you should have in these areas, or someone else has like the oil, you need to trade for those resources to make the construction faster, or it's gonna be super slow. And this is where you do it. And next thing we have the constructions. So this is where you construct things to your country. So we have currently available for construction 3 factories. One of them are producing the trade goods now. And you can see there's consumer goods, and there's trade goods being produced. And our economic policy is that expects that 30% of our factories is working on this. So you can change the economic to more war focus if you want to. And this is where you build all the things, basically. So infrastructure to help support your troops, air bases, anti-air, the radars, to see the enemy movements and troops, military factories to make more guns, civilian factories to make more trade goods and consumer goods, naval dockyards to help build navy, then the synthetic refineries, if you research those you can make some oil and rubber, then rocket sites later on and nuclear reactors later on to enrich uranium for nuclear weapons. And then you can make naval bases down here as well. So naval dockyard, this makes ships, this is a naval base where you can extend the range of your fleets and repair them. Then you have land forts, which help defend your nation. And then you have coastal forts that help against the ships. And you can also convert the civilian factories to military factories and vice versa in here. Then we have production here. So this is where you produce your guns. And another important one to look in is here. So for example, we see that we have towed artillery missing at the moment, and guns and support. So we should produce all of these. We have 32 convoys, but those are also quite nice to do. So we have the guns producing here. So we had 2 military factories, so they are producing these and those. But we should add probably like the towed artillery in there. This is where you add all these things like ships and them to be made, and you assign different amounts to produce guns, for example, but we don't have those. If you fill this out, as you gain more factories, it will fill in. And same with this. So this is where you produce your things. You can see what requirements they have. So if you increase the number, they require more stuff, and you need to provide them with this material. They also work on this order, so you can change the priority here. If you need more guns, for example, right now, or tanks, or whatever you need. And then you can build ships here as well. So you could add a couple submarines, and now we're missing oil. So that's where you produce your equipment for your armies. And then see them in the logistics here. And lastly, we have the recruit and deploy in here. So this is where you make your armies. So we have these infantry options and cavalry options by default, which we can edit, as I showed you here. So this is the division setup. You can add support equipment, like these guys have artillery and engineers and some infantry, and you could add some more in here if you want more infantry, more artillery. Same with the cavalry here, and you can see all the information about them here, what kind of terrains they are good for and what kind of terrains they are not good for. And as you get tanks and stuff, you can build more of these divisions here. And then you just click on the train here, and you get this amount in here being made, and you set where they will spawn. For example, there in Shelland. And how many do you want to make? Like 4 or something. How big priority the reinforcement is on those. And you can also add more units. So if you want to make them at the same time, so you can do this, add a billion being made, but it will make this first, then that. But if you want to train them at the same time, you can add them here, and they will try to make them at the same time at least. And if you have the number here, they'll work on those. So this is a really nice way to do it, and you can cancel them as well as needed. And you see the progress bar here being the training and the equipment as it fills out. Alright, and then we have the army window. So to make an army, you have to click this button, but you select the divisions, just drag on those, and we have these units, and then click here, and we have an army done. So you get this army window here where you do the orders and commands, and here you assign a commander. For example, Wilhelm Van Prior is here. He can control 22 divisions, has a trickster, you can promote them, their level, and you can hire more commanders with a political power in here, like him. Knud, welcome to the party. There we go. So now we have an army leader as well, ready to go. And this is how you then do your army tactics. So important buttons here. This is the naval invasion order. So you, when you do naval invasions, you click on this, you click where you want to start, and then where you want to go. For example, here. And when you execute this order, they will take their boats and attack in there. We'll just delete that with the delete button here. Same thing for the paratroopers. So they need to be at the naval base to do this, and at the naval airport to do this paratroop option, but we don't have paratroopers at the moment. Then we have the front lines. So for example, if you want to make a front line against the Germans here, you click this and then click there, and they will send the troops now to the front line here to defend the front line. This is really handy, so you don't have to one by one click a unit, go here in this province, in this province, in this province. You can just make a front line and send them there to defend the line. And with the same thing, firstly do a front line, and then we do an offensive line. So we attack from the front line to the offensive line here. So for example, if we want to attack Germany here, you can just right click, hold the right click, and paint the area here. And you see the green area is where we have enough units, the yellow area is kind of so and so, and then red area, we don't have enough troops to hold this line at the moment. And let's put it there. So this is where the front line will advance. So once we activate the army, these 5 divisions of Army 1 will start pushing and taking over this area all the way to this line down here. And it's really handy, so you don't have to micromanage all the billion units yourself, especially when you're playing big nations against big nation. You can just make a front line and let them deal with it. They will move the units and support the units and attack, and it actually works really well. It's really nice and handy. And the other options we have fallback line. When shit hits the fan, you might want to have for example, if there's a river to fall back, this would be a really good fallback line if I was controlling this area. But for example, when my troops get whacked by the Germans, we would probably want to fall back to like here to defend. Then we have garrison area. You can garrison different areas. This will remove the other options. For example, garrison a major city or something. And this is the division assignment. So you can assign like divisions. For example, if you made extra troops, we could assign the extra troops in the same order easily. And then edit mode, so you can edit these ideas, the plans. And that's it. Up here you see the information of your plan. You can exercise your troops to gain some training on them while you're not at war, which is really good to keep them trained. And Then we have the buttons here. So this is where you activate this plan, and this is where you stop it. So this is me activating it, and they will push to the line in there, and this is me stopping it. But we are not in the war with the Germans, so we cannot really do it. And that's it. That's pretty much the basics of a very long beginner's guide of Hearts of Iron 4. Let me see if I missed anything important. I think we covered pretty much everything. So this is everything you need to know to start your game. But probably you will still be wondering what's happening and all that information. So, anyways, I hope this this helps you to understand what's where and what does what. At least a bit to allow you to enjoy this game as much as I have so far. So thank you for watching this very long beginner's guide. And I hope to see you again on the YouTube channel and on my live stream on Nari.tv every day. So thank you. I'll see you guys next time.